the approximately 10 most popular decks of season 18.
Can I say a little question there? Because we were just talking about the Orzhov deck. The Orzhov deck kind of disappeared, and then it was sort of a Mardu deck a bit, and then that deck was the Rakdos deck.
Yeah, there was a time when the most heavily played high win percent deck was like Orzhov mid-range with him and Tidehollow Sculler, and it dropped down a bit, and it also got played a lot less. Where did it end up?
Yeah, I guess we can talk about those decks when we get to them, but it's interesting because I feel like you're right in the evolution that happened. So I mean, I was playing like an Orzhov 8 Bears style deck that was like Orzhov mid range, and then there was like a more like there was also ones that were playing like weird smallpox stuff, and then there was like cat oven stuff. I think nobody really ever figured out what the best one was. And then you're right though that it became like then people started playing Mardu mid range, and then people changed it to Rakdos mid range because Mardu was like.
Rakdos seemed to be
like
mana
wise was not good. Like it was too slow. I think the Rakdos mid-range deck was pretty good too.
But the good thing about Rakdos was after you made everybody low on resources and killed everything that moved, you made Tectonic Dragon, Goblin Dark Willows, or Scorpion God, and kind of took over. And that's I think what was really nice about Rakdos. Like Orzhov was more like nickel and dime you with my 2/2 for 2. Who also has a card under it, and if you kill it, everything's going to snowball and I'm going to lose. Whereas Rakdos was like, okay, you got nothing, and I've got this 3/4 that draws a card every turn.
Right.
Or Chandra.
Yeah, it was like the Jund play pattern of you 1-for-1 them, and then you slam a Bloodbraid Elf, and
right.
shuts the door.
Exactly that.
And I think that the Tectonic Giant is like a Bloodbraid Elf, spend 1 basically.
Yes. And also like quite a fast clock. Like you couldn't really, it didn't matter that you had treasure cruises or something so much because you refueled, but in the meantime they hit you for 6 and then 12 and you were dead. Right. They chain lightning in your face or whatever. Okay, so I just wanted to look at maybe win percent.
It did also make the PD 500 top 8, but that was like the same person with a Night Death that like completely played the deck the entire season. So it was like their baby. So I mean, but I agree. It's not like. You can put him and a bunch of different cards, and probably you have a deck.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting, isn't it, that you have him.
Never bad.
Him plus cards is good, and Ponder, Brainstorm, Git Probe, Treasure Cruise plus cards is good. But there weren't really any blue-black with him, although that is what Brian Moss top 8'd the PD 500 with. But
that's true.
Anyway, I tried it a few times with not much success. So a deck that was played quite a lot to a high win percent in the league, I guess mostly was Seance, which is just like.
I can't talk about Seance. What do you want me to say about Seance?
It's basically just a lot of different ways of making a bunch of squirrels and hoping that's good enough to kill you. It was pretty resilient. It was good against counter spells in a way that creature decks normally aren't.
69.
Now this deck I think is really worth talking about. It won 2 tournaments, has a really high win percentage, was played quite a lot. And it's a real PD special. What format has ever had this deck before? None.
What do you mean, Blood Moons? A lot of it. Has a lot of Blood Moons. This is just a Penny Temple Blood Moon version. It's not.
Very, very much.
Super.
It's a little different. It's a Blood Moon with some boots. You have to, have a lifelink creature.
It's also better than Blood Moon. Blood Moon is fucking terrible against mono mountains.
Yeah.
I guess Heart Darkness is terrible against mono swamps. So not. Different in that respect, but
but it hits basic lands. You're right.
Yeah, Blood Moon wouldn't even be good in this format because mono white heroic would trash you.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, so I thought it was really, really interesting and just a great little find or creation, whatever the right word is. You've got your Nighthawks doing extra work because it gains the life you need for the Heart of Darkness. There's life payment and some pretty usual suspects. Grim Dancer for the same task. Him obviously important. Dark Ritual obviously great. And then while they can't do anything, make a 6/6 and kill them. And I thought it was sweet and radically higher win rate than its parent archetype, of which it is nearly 50%. I don't know, more than a quarter. It's a third. Okay, it's a third. A whole 10% jump, even though this number is inside this number, as it were. So, it was a lot better. The whole Slam and Infernal Darkness, possibly with Dark Ritual and then just
so
win the game.
I guess one thing I would say about that number is that all the people who were playing, like Honor Bound makes good decks, like they're just like reasonable decks that like, you know, have a mana curve and good interaction and good sideboards. And so when they build a deck like unique that becomes its own archetype, like Heart of Darkness, and then everybody copies that deck, they're copying the good version. Whereas you'll have a million people copying different mono black mid-range decks that are like, you know, like playing like all kinds of garbage basically.
But I think, you know, but if I force you at gunpoint to play a mono black deck in a Penny Dreadful tournament for your life tomorrow, you would put Infernal Darkness in it, right?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's a real sweet innovation.
No, yeah, I agree, yeah.
I think the thing is the baseline for mono black mid-range in the format is usually a bit like what Rakdos does, which is like blow up your stuff and then play Desecration Demon and hope that's like good enough.
Yeah,
and
whereas blow up your stuff and lock you out of the game forever is often the best.
It was just too easy to lose with that kind of black deck without the Heart of Darkness thing, the Blood Moon card showing up and beating decks that didn't care about, you know, you blowing up their creatures and stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
So Orzhov Aristocrats sneaking in here very high up the chart. I'm not sure I even know what this is. This the Enduring Renewal deck?
I don't know. I saw some Cat Oven versions. Yeah, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Maybe
So, recently, people have just been playing little life gainy, you know, somewhat disrupting version. Earlier in the season, people were playing like Enduring Renewal combo with like 0 drops to just kill you with Cruel Celebrant. With, you know, you just tap out, play Cruel Celebrant turn 2 or turn 3.
I mean, this is like a reasonable deck that probably is propped up by some people grinding leagues.
Yeah.
Because of
I wonder about like, only 2 tournament top 8s with 3-2 records. So I guess possibly crushing the more brewy brews in leagues. Possibly the same to say about Selesnya Cats with its high win rate. Leash Aggro Control got played a bunch. I don't know if this is a very good archetype.
Why did you skip Selesnya Cats? Actually,
Selesnya Cats is just literally white weenie, but it has green in it, and the lords all say cats get bigger.
Well, I will say, I don't think it's white weenie. I think
it's
it's more like a Selesnya little kid deck, because it's more like a little bit more mid rangey. I think, like with like Policeman Lions and stuff. But I will say, I think this deck is like not that bad. Like it sounds like it's kind of a meme, but it's. Like the lords are pretty good and the threats are pretty good.
A 2/3 for 1 traditionally in Magic is plenty good enough. Like giving all your creatures, what is it? This one +2/+1 off your lord is sick. Honor of the Pure is tried and trusted. Yeah, I see these Garrett Wildspeed because
I don't think you want Garrett in this deck, but
and Regal Garrett on the top for just like, well, if you haven't dealt with my cats yet, I'm about to gain a bunch of life. I guess the one that destroys artifacts and enchantments, Feline Sovereign, which is, you know, playable without that, is kind of incidentally amazing against Affinity or something like that.
And there was the version that played Liquid Metal Coating, which was hilarious.
That is funny. I don't know about good.
Actually, it was okay for a while.
Does it have its own sub archetype? No, it should do.
No. Not enough.
It's Green White Cats. I mean, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought the deck was fine. Like I said, like the 2-drops are really good. I think the 2-drops will prop that deck up because on baseline, they're fine. They're really good.
Right.
Policeman
Lion is really good. Bronze Lion is really good. So that's what you want out of your like tribal decks is that they stand up on their own just well. Even like Savannah Lions, a 2/1 for 1. I'm not going to complain about that 2/1 for 1.
Right.
Loam Lion's a little, but it's whatever.
Yeah.
So like that's what you want, and then they're propped up more by things like King of the Pride, the 3-drop, the other I don't know what's called Feline Sovereign.
And also like the nature of the format making jamming a deck full of removal and Day of Judgments like not that wise because you'll get Will Gorge Dragon does help a bit when you want to play like 1-drop, 2-drop Lord, right? Because you know main deck they don't have 4 sweepers and 8 removal spells because you just can't do that if like a bunch of the decks you're thinking you're going to face are creatureless combo, right? You're trying to play Drown in the Lock and shit to like hedge and you know then your Drown Lock doesn't do anything because they don't put cards in their graveyard and they kill you with the first 3 creatures they play while with no cards in their graveyard. So yeah, probably benefits a little bit from that. Zer's Weirding, probably worth calling out. This got jammed a whole bunch in the league to quite some success, and also won 2 tournaments, which it's probably like the premier control deck of the season, right?
I mean, it's just Dimir control, but it makes some deck building concessions to support Zer's Weirding, which at first I thought was kind of a meme, but I also I've kind of come around to it because it is really good in some matchups where you sometimes struggle, like Storm. Like it does really lock out Storm pretty well if you can jam that Zer's Weirding.
Yeah, I mean definitely. I mean, I guess I was saying no deck was combining him and Ponder, but here is one. Yeah, I mean it's you're right. It's Dimir control. Where's the funky creature? This creature. Somehow this creature is really good in this deck.
It's because they can't make you discard it, right? That's the whole idea.
Yeah, it's just always available and you almost want it in your graveyard, so
right.
There you go. But yeah, only 2 actual Zer's Weirding, and I think no tutors, so I guess really blue-black control with this kind of side of craziness. But I mean, Ludwig Frito championed it, played it, did really well with it.
I think the best part is that you don't need the Weirding to win.
No, they could just 2-for-1 you out and then kill you with their unkillable.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably side it out in like, some matchups. Like you probably like against like Affinity maybe you don't even want it against Affinity. I don't know.
It seemed like this was
maybe you don't, maybe you do. I don't know, but I'm spitballing. But
we have an entry here for Solar Flare, but I'm afraid that our Solar Flare archetype is a bit of a mess. Like the name Solar Flare comes from Zombify My Angel of Despair in 2005 or whenever that was, and then it got reinvigorated when Unburial Rites came out and people were playing Unburial Rites decks, and but we have a tendency to put decks in here that just have like value animate deads, and like it doesn't tell you all that much, does it really, that you're playing a value animate dead? Like you can play animate dead in any deck with discard or creatures or self-mill or anything, right? I don't know how interesting that category is. We have a quick look at it for 5 seconds. Yeah, I mean, Waker of Waves is like a self-enabling thing, just jam Waker of Waves and animate dead in your mid-range or control deck, and voila, you are Solar Flare. All the good records are league records. Mono Blue Tempo. So this was like a really obvious deck when we saw that Ponder, Brainstorm, Git Probe, Delver, Treasure Cruise were legal, and the mana wasn't great for, some Blue X decks, and it did real well. I don't know if we characterized your PD500 win as Mono Blue Tempo, but that's kind of a different take. But people were mostly playing Delver, Fairy Vandal, Brineborn, Cutthroat, a bunch of counter spells, maybe the X4, can't think what it's called.
Yeah, the Trick Mind deck is under like aggro combos.
Okay.
I don't even really like that as a name, but that's besides the point.
Here's Crazy Bee's take. So yeah, the 12 kind of obvious threats, the obvious cantrips, even opt as well for maximum Fairy Vandal.
Yeah, this one was more of a thought experiment than a real deck list, and I happened to win a tournament with it.
I accidentally won a tournament. Here we go, Mono Blue Delver in a nutshell.
That's kind of what happened. Like I literally was like, what if I put every single cantrip in the deck, including opt?
Yeah.
And then that's what it came out. And I mean, like the deck's kind of reasonable. Like I think it's kind of like a feel smart deck in the sense that your good matchups are like the other good decks, but you lose to the like quote unquote bad decks. Like you'll lose to like red deck wins and heroic, which are obviously not actual bad decks, but you know what I'm saying. Like
I know what you're saying. Everyone trying to do clever, crazy, wild things. You just mana leak the important thing and kill them with your 4/5.
Right.
And
you're
then
definitely
people who are
working
just
really hard.
dumping creatures on the board and attacking
you.
you're like, well, this Judge's Familiar doesn't block very well.
Right.
So this is the other take on it, which is like 7 curiosities, Curious Obsession being the better curiosity.
This is just more of a Mono Blue Skies deck. I don't know why it's here.
This is not really. I don't even like.
Has 4 mana leak in the main and some other stuff in the sideboard. It's just but this is more of a creature deck, and then like the whole point is to fuel your random set of dudes with this. I mean, Invisible Stalker, Curious Obsession.
I like that. I've tried that before. It's good. I don't know if there's like a payoff other than like Fairy Vandal. I really like Forbid, but I like Forbid locking a lot of people.
I think
Yeah,
the,
you're
I think the
obsessed with
problem with
Forbid.
this deck is that if you're gonna have if you're drawing an extra card a turn and all you're drawing is creatures,
Yeah, it
like
doesn't do anything.
and mana leaks, like that's not always good, right?
I did play
time.
Carmendor in the league, and he drew 1 billion cards, and I cast Day of Judgment on his 7 dorky creatures, and then he made an Invisible Stalker and put a Curse Obsession and drew 1 billion cards, and then I Day of Judgment his 7 irrelevant creatures.
Right, exactly.
And then he lost. So there's definitely a
you
point
have
at
4
which
mana leaks is interaction, and that's it. So drawing all those extra cards, like you need to actually draw interaction.
I mean, I
That's
don't
that's
know.
the
I mean,
downside.
it obviously worked like to some extent because people were, playing it in the league and doing fine / well. It won a tournament, but
Well, that's just the Brainstorm Ponder effect, honestly. I mean, you put Brainstorm Ponder in a lot of decks,
Yeah.
it's gonna be good. Like
Yeah.
something is gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna get what you need at some
I
point.
also think like
so.
the X4 flyer is like just a massive threat that doesn't die to Chain Lightning. It's like a minimum 4/4 when it attacks, isn't it?
Yeah,
Mindcrank we
it
kind of
dodges
talked
a lot
about
of them.
already. And Mere Incubator was apparently played 43 times. We talked about that a little bit already. Also Midrange talked about already. So I guess
We didn't really talk about the good decks, I guess.
yeah. Well, I'm going to go to just tournaments only in a sec. So Mardu Midrange also got played a bunch and was pretty good. That's kind of like the Rakdos and the Orzhov we talked about, just with all 3 cards. And
the
then
Mardu deck evolved,
like-
just evolved in the Rakdos.
and
they really-
Smiting
you
Helix
could just
for
cut
purpose.
white, and it didn't. It just made the deck better.
Yeah,
You
Smiting
cut them
Helix
like
for
lava
purposes other
the
than
Fairy effect.
milling. All right, so I'm going to switch to tournaments only, and I'm going to have a little look at the most tournament wins. So Affinity we talked about, it's 20. Mono White Heroic we talked about 12. Red Deck wins 11. Whirlpool Dragon 8, and I guess some other Reanimator got 1. Cloud Post Ramp, or Green Post I guess is the main archetype there, 7. And then seasons, the 2 previous seasons villain, Aggro
We
Slide.
haven't talked
with
about aggro slide.
a much
We
lower
talked about-
number
can I
of
go-
tournament wins and a much lower win percentage, but still totally respectable this season.
Yeah, for sure.
2 PD,
And they're still
500
playing
top 8.
imposing Mantisaur instead of
You hate that card. You hate it. I know you're gonna say that. I knew you were gonna say Imposing Mantisaur is terrible.
This is
I
me
knew
at this
it.
point.
I knew it. No, I mean, like, it's so funny how, like, Trevor just shows up in the format. Trevor, I forget the numbers, but he just shows up, breaks the format, and then leaves. He did this in season 5 with Necro when he made that busted Necro combo deck, and then he just dropped off the face of the
He
planet.
also made
Same thing
he
with
also
Aggro
made
Slide.
Grozoth the most insane deck. One
Yeah.
of the most insane decks in PD history that was actually
He
good.
just, like, plop this on the field. It's like, here you go. Have fun, guys.
yeah, he's
I gotta go to college or something. And then it's just like,
just
and
casually
then he
top
just, like,
18
falls off.
GP Vegas when we were there as well. Anyway,
I think this is honestly, this deck is like, I think the result of us going to 2 cents is that we're gonna keep
it's interesting.
cards.
It's
we're going to
interesting
like
that
keep a lot of cards.
The first time it stayed in 100%,
Yeah.
everything was 1 cent. But this time,
It actually
Lightning
got
Rift
better
is
with
2
You
cents.
could say it got better with Rugged Prairie, I guess, but it's crazy how like we're gonna see this for a while. You can't. Like,
yeah,
get
if the
used
power
to it,
level
like,
drops,
you know?
then it's going to be hard to keep up with the power level of Ponder, Brainstorm, Git Pro, Treasure Cruise. If the power level drops, this deck will be tier 1 again. I mean, you could argue it was this season. I don't think it was. The win percent isn't quite there, and the matchups against the really fast combo decks are just dreadful. But
Yeah, luckily the combo was actually here to hold it down.
still got
which
that
was really
same
weird.
thing of
A
like,
really
I
weird
can
thing to
win
say.
about turn 5, I can make 1 really big creature, I can go wide, and I can just do 2 damage to your face and draw a card for 2 mana for the rest of the game. Plus I have the spell that says you lose 12, I gain 12, and it's an instant. So I can do it your instead my next turn if I've got 2, which I probably have because my entire deck is cycling cards. So, not a lot to say about it really, but it's...
I think Rift invalidates a lot of decks.
We're
It
gonna
just
live-
invalidates so many decks.
Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah, I
have to
mean,
live
if you
with
think
it for
about
a
like
long time.
Merfolk, like I'm looking at it now, it played against Merfolk twice, and Merfolk was a real. Actually, I think we didn't talk about Merfolk at all. I think Merfolk was actually quite good, but this is like the kind of deck that just destroys Merfolk, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like I'm playing a bunch of X2s, and and then every turn I get lightning rifted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I spent a lot of time this season. This was really, really the best deck, and it won P500 last season. just trying to beat this deck with blue-red, and in the end I put 4 Lightning Rifts in my sideboard, and I still was losing to it, but I at least had some plan that wasn't just have all my creatures die to Lightning Rift, be unable to win the game.
Another thing that's pretty impactful actually was Feed the Swarm, which is like a main deckable answer to Lightning Rift in black.
That's true. That's
something I was thinking about at the beginning of the season a lot, and I kept putting it in my deck because of Lightning Rift.
Yeah, I think Feed the Swarm.
Yeah, Merfolk's right. Merfolk is right.
Here's your Merfolk with its 4 tournament wins. So we had Reejerey maybe for the first time. That's one of the better 3 mana lords.
Master of the Pearl Trident.
And Master of the Pearl Trident, which is one of the better 2 mana lords ever printed. So basically just play whatever 1-drop semi-disruptive Merfolk, then play lords for the rest of the game. Oh, and Silvergill Adept.
Again, and people put Curious Obsession in this deck, which is totally wrong because you're drawing like creatures instead. You're not drawing interactions, so like Curious Obsession isn't good. You don't have an evasive threat. Like you can play an unblockable Merfolk, but anyway, I don't want to rant about it for too long. But like,
I would sooner put like Convincing Mirage over Curious. If I want to play some like random aura that did nothing, I'd rather play like something that made my opponent's creatures islands, so I can combo with like Master of the Pearl Trident.
Yeah, wow, Quicksilver
Fountain.
That is going deep.
That is
there it is.
The worst spreading seas ever. But I actually like.
This is Blood Moon. It's another Blood Moon.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
It's sort of semi-disruptive, and sometimes it makes all your creatures unblockable, which is very good in a deck that's got 28 creatures that all become 4/4s pretty quickly.
Right.
And then
it's a board presence deck. Like if the format's like not playing a lot of Day Judgments, even though it's in the format, this deck is awesome. They even fight Day Judgment because it's blue. So
right,
I like the deck. I agree. I really like the deck.
Yeah, I'm very concerned with like removing any relevant blocker, keeping my Lord alive, maybe drawing some extra card, and just flood the board with dudes who soon enough be 4/4s, 5/5s, whatever, and you can only be attacked by 4/4s and 5/5s so many times before you're dead.
I think that you should also, and this version doesn't have it. But they should be playing Mistcatcher or whatever.
Mistcaller, yeah.
Mistcaller, yeah.
I really wanted to play Hypergenesis at some point, and this deck was at its popularity, and they just played from a Mistcaller. It's like I don't know what to do. It's like I literally don't know what to do. Like it's like because it's just like a 1-drop that just does things. It's so good against like World Gorger, Hypergenesis, like Reanimate, and anything that's like tries to do something completely unfair. Mistcaller just sits there.
Yeah,
look at the one that. What was the one that top 8'd the 500? Look at that one. I guess
none of them top 8'd the 500. I don't think.
Yeah, Lord Magicus did.
Was it this one? Yeah, that one.
Oh, did they?
Yeah,
they did.
Yeah, full Mistcaller did Mistcaller. I like these ones.
Wow, they did sneak in.
Yeah, I think this is the better version.
I was too busy doing other things that turned.
Fake Mutavaults.
I completely forgot it top 8'd.
Too busy winning, Jimmy. That's why.
Yeah, I really like 4 Vapor Snag, 4 Deprive. Like that's just really good interaction. Mistcaller is just good against any unfair, like a lot of the unfair decks, like Reanimator specifically, and it's main deckable because it's just a 1-drop. Curse Catcher is good interaction. I don't know about Brineborn Cutthroat. I guess they just wanted another 2-drop.
Yeah, I think it's literally.
I think it's actually it messes up a lot of math. Everyone forgets.
Yeah, I guess you don't have what's it called, a Trickster. So you play.
It also lets you like hold up Deprive versus adding more board presence.
Yeah.
It's not the worst.
It's just like a 5. It's a 5/4 like Ambush Viper basically. That's how I always like noticed the card.
It's not going to grow a lot because of casting spells on opponent's turn, but it may just.
Or your opponent would attack in a weird way where they know they wouldn't die, and then end the turn Cutthroat and you're dead.
Only lost one game in the first 6 rounds.
Yeah, they won the first 6 rounds. They took an L to Aggro Slide, of course, and Rakdos and Heroic. So.
Yeah, I played incredibly badly in Game 3 of this match.
Yeah, by far.
I think by a lot, right? Like, at least since I've been paying attention, I can't remember it ever being even playable. Not that people didn't play it, but like...
They're bad.
People were doing things like stretching to green to play it in the past,
This just has better mana, and has 2 extra lords.
It is so many more.
Yeah, I guess you could interchange Master with the blue-green lord, I don't know what it's called, but having Reejerey, it makes it a broken deck.
Reejerey is a real tricky card. Like Reejerey will give you options that other cards don't. So definitely a good one.
Actually, and Reejerey Brinehorn is a really good combo too. You can fog a turn.
So Rakdos Aristocrats somehow won 3 tournaments. Despite only being played 29 times.
Real Magic card too.
This is another one of Ludwig Frito's champions, along with Zers Weirding, isn't it?
It's another cat oven deck. I mean, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
Judith is actually really
like
strong.
fairly aggro with like Judith. And Falcon Wrath Aristocrat on the top end, swinging in and then sacking your board with Mayhem Devil or whatever for the kill. Like, there's a lot of play to this. I would not like to play against this with creatures with 1 toughness, because they're just going to die to some combination of Judith and Mayhem Devil.
It's so weird to see 3 Cauldron Familiar and 4 of it. It's like, I don't know. I can't.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's right, but I didn't win the tournament with it, so I couldn't
4 Bloodthorn Vampires, no Viscera Seers. I mean, there's a lot of choices here. Only 1 Grim Haruspex. But I mean, not even 4 Mayhem Devil. I mean, Mayhem Devil's so good. Surely. Well, there's a lot of things to fit in, right? You've got to steal.
Why is there a War Gear in here? It's just a me.
War Gear, I guess, is from War Marshal or something, just to make it a reasonable threat when you need to beat down. But yeah, that's funny. And I guess you can re-equip it to kill your creatures if you need to.
It is a sack outlet. Yeah. I mean, I guess.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting.
You can
benefited from us having pretty good red-black mana this season to allow you to play things like Mayhem Devil with not too much cost. Pretty sick. Probably underplayed. No him in this version. You could definitely stretch the mana to play him. Drop a mountain.
I like no him. You really need like a massive amount of creatures and like things to do with it. So I actually like not having him.
There's a lot of options. I mean, I won 5 tournaments in season 4 playing Mono Black Aristocrats with him, because you would just, him with 2 of their lands, and then it gives you all the time in the world to do all your aristocratic nonsense.
But you had Cutthroats, and they have to play with Mayhem Devil, so the mana's a bit harder.
As well.
Cutthroats, not that we're talking about next season yet, but Cutthroat's coming back next year, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot going on next season.
All right. So what else won a tournament that we haven't talked about? I'm no longer in tournaments.
Yeah,
Elves was the next thing on the list you skipped.
Oh no, Rakdos midrange is above it.
Oh yeah.
So we sort of talked about this, I guess.
This is like the final form of the Jund deck of the format, I guess.
Yeah.
It put a bunch of people in the top 16, the PD 500. Yeah, I mean, it's just you 1-for-1 your opponent with or 2-for-1 them in some cases with him or Pyroclasm or whatever. And then you drop your Tech Giant, and
you've got 6 unbounded, 8 unbounded card advantage, 4 and 5 drops, and then Goblin Dark Dwellers does a fairly good impression of that. And most of them also kill your opponent fairly quickly. And then...
Yeah, I've been curved out with this deck so many times that I think it's the best deck. I honestly sometimes think it's the best deck in the format.
It's definitely one that I was difficult to account for in deck building more so than others.
That's the thing about that style of deck, right? It's like if they curve out, it's really good, but if they stumble at all, it's like they're playing like...
Yeah, they've got 2 Rakdos signets, but no finisher.
Yeah, you could definitely draw on the wrong half of your deck and be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's totally matchup dependent, but I mean, I think Tech Giant's just super strong.
Yeah, struggled like Jund.
You can hit anyone out of games
against big mana, right? So you 2-for-1 them, but they still play
you
lands,
just
and
then they just end it. It's
wasn't quite fast enough to keep Affinity under control, I guess. Pretty bad win rate there. Mono White Heroic again. So I guess the decks that are really fast aggro wise kind of got under it. Aggro Slide, too many angles of attack.
I suspect that part of the reason Aggro Slide did so well in the 500 is because of how highly represented the Rakdos midrange deck did. I think Aggro Slide really beats up on these kind of midrange decks because it has so many angles.
Right. Yeah, meanwhile, it's completely crushing. Is it tempo? Just like the 2-for-1s and killing all the threats and crushing elves 17-1, Jesus. And even beating red deck wins because, if you don't have any creatures or recurring source of damage, you're going to have to top deck 20 points of burn, and that takes a long time.
Right.
Yeah, so, that was a good deck, I think. Elves also won 2 tournaments. So Elves we had a bunch of lords, including Archdruid and Imperious Perfect, or I guess maybe they were the only lords that people were playing. Didn't do anything in the later part of the season, but early on it won some tournaments. As many 1-drop mana elves as you want.
Oh, this deck's going wild. It's the Cloudstone version?
But this is a
slightly combo-y version with Elvish Visionary and...
I mean, you put a bunch of... It's the same as... It's similar to Merfolk, where you put a bunch of lords, you get a bunch of tribal effects, and all of a sudden you have a deck. The difference is that Archdruid
you
is
kind of
really
snowball with mana, don't you? Right, and then you can play.
So I won a tournament with elves, and I think that. So here is my thought on elves is that it's actually very good against affinity because you go so wide, and you also have access to playing Fracturing Gust like very quickly, and so I was thinking that if you expect a lot of affinity, then you should play elves because you just crush affinity. So that was like my logic. I don't really remember what I beat in the tournament, but
you'll find out.
I think
Click it. You'll find out.
Yeah, let's see.
I mean, yeah, as long as you're not playing, it's like black red.
Right.
You're fine, but that's a lot of. I mean, that's Magic in general. You want to dodge a bunch of
7
matchups.
reload spells once you snowballed with mana to make a bunch of guys.
Yeah, that's how I like to build
Super
it.
finisher in Endra's Forerunner. And then like this pathetic 3 Lodestone Golem because you know that your combo matchup is abysmal.
So I beat Affinity. I lost to a Jeskai Ascendancy deck, Briar Moss, which makes sense. That's a really unfair deck. I didn't drop a game in any of the others.
No.
Yeah, you played against all creature decks.
Yeah, I mean basically you've got this like deck that's going to make an amazing board presence about turn 4 and kill about turn 5, and some sideboard cards. Either your plan is good enough or it isn't. Like you're happy to play against control with 7 like refill cards, but
there's actually 9 if you count the Sylvan Messengers too.
Oh yeah.
The logic behind playing the Lead the Stampedes is that they find Lodestone Golem and Dryadnotin when those cards are relevant.
Just in time for before they combo off and kill you.
Yeah. Which I don't know if that's true or correct, but that was my thought.
You can often cast it. Yeah.
You didn't have to use them at all, apparently.
Right.
You played all creature decks and lost to the one combo deck.
So, other decks that won 2 or more tournaments that we haven't talked about. Cycling Control. This is Astral Slide by another name. It's just the parent of Astral Slide.
Oh, yeah. Astral Slide was actually the best looking deck for like 2 weeks.
I mean,
because the guy he went back-to-back wins and then he made second place in another tournament. And we're like, is this the best deck now? It was crazy. He had one of the most insane runs.
Just all of these numbers belong to him, and the 45% win rate does not belong to him. But
Yeah.
Fartek
has like an 80% win rate with the deck, and the deck as a whole has like a 45% win rate.
I mean, that's partly, I suspect, because everyone who picks it up casually times out rather than because they lose.
Right. Fartek was very technically good at playing it. I watched them play.
Yeah.
They were very fast.
8 slides and some Stonehold Dignitaries and some ways to get card
advantage.
Like
a crazy value control deck.
It's a little bit slow and a little bit weak to proper combo, but it grind out any deck that wants to attack with creatures easily, I suspect. I don't even know if this is
kind of funny. Like here, if you look at his results or their results, you see they lost to World Warrior Dragon in the Swiss and then beat it in the quarterfinal, which is where you want to be, I guess.
Well, yeah. Some Tormod scripts,
where it matters.
Some Gilded Lights to gain Shroud from the win condition.
Yeah, I mean, if you can stick Astral Slide, they can't really combo, right?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I guess though, if they make a demon and you slide it out, then they do get to choose every time you do it. But maybe that's okay. Like maybe there's nothing in their deck that can beat you.
I just wanted this deck to have like 4 Deep Forest from it. I just wanted the jam 4 because like I saw so many games where it would time out or just like take so much time.
It's the only card in the deck that closes the game quickly. So
so it's like you have to understand. This is a part of how I pick decks is that MTGO's on a chess clock, so you have to like think about that. That's why I don't play like click system combos or things like Astral Slide because they'll just take too long sometimes.
Yeah,
and I don't want to like depend on my opponent to concede to me. Because I definitely have not been conceded to, and I've definitely messed up combos. So, I don't know. I just wanted it to be aggressive, more aggressive down the line.
I can see that. So Burn apparently won 2 tournaments. I think probably the line between Burn and Red Deck wins, as noted by the fact that it's called Red Deck wins, is pretty thin. I mean,
that's a Burn deck.
More Burn spells, Price of Progress in the main.
That's a Burn deck.
I agree. But it's always a little mushy. But yeah, apparently this won 2 tournaments. Wasn't played very much. I actually played it a little. It was pretty good.
They're trying to high roll.
You can main Anchor of Mishra and Price of Progress and just like
4 Thunderous Wrath is
4 Thunderous Wrath.
We're going to Vegas with that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
That's how you win a
tournament. There are no Brainstorm Thunderous Wrath decks. Actually, now that I think about it.
And that's what the Izzet tempo deck needed.
And the last deck that that we haven't talked about that won 2 or more tournaments is it spells, which I guess is, is it tempo but not aggro, slower? Crackling Drake is an improbable alliance and drawing
This is
extra
the
cards.
Honor Bound.
This is what Honor Bound was on before he branched off into his world of Infernal Darkness, and he in fact won 2 tournaments with it.
Oh, it is the Drake's deck.
I like this deck. I think this deck is pretty good, like a mid-range blue-red deck.
I mean, Improbable Alliance is a nightmare threat for some kinds of decks, and then you've got a bunch of interaction, and Crackling Drake wins games.
Yeah.
Oh, we played Vanishment. That's actually pretty good.
And treasure
Speaking of miracle cards.
Yeah, brainstorm your Vanishment on top and play it. It's okay, but I don't know how exciting it is. But yeah, this deck was like pretty good, I think. But
it's definitely like one of those work really hard, get rewarded with like Crackling Drake, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you're never winning fast, are you, right? You've got to negotiate whatever it is your opponent is trying to do. You've got to counter the right things and kill the right creatures. Not even that much removal in this deck, so like, you then have to turn on a dime and like make your Crackling Drake and not have it die and kill them before they draw the burn spell. I don't know. Kind of, you earn every win with this kind of thing. 4 Izzet Charm is an extreme behavior, but it does trigger alliance on your opponent's turn.
Yeah, I mean, at worst, it like triggers a probable alliance on your end step when you need a fairy.
Right.
Okay, so, we're reaching the end of my freebie Zoom meeting, so that's
part 3.
We'll be back for part 3 to talk about the new season in a moment.